All right. No one's watching yet. Hi, friends. We'll wait here a few moments for a couple people to join us here on the live with JoJo's dough and our little donut. All right. Hello, Heather. Heather's watching.
Okay.
Heather Miracle.
She's one of the administrators.
She says, Jodi.
Heather must be the favorite twin because she's on first.
I love it.
Lou, stay down.
Sit, buddy.
Sit. Sit.
All right. You have some people watching.
Okay. Should I go ahead and go?
I think you should go ahead and go.
Okay. All right. Everything you want to know about joining a farmer's market. First of all, a little bit about myself. I baked for probably 40 years, but when COVID hit and I had more time in my hands, I got encouragement from friends. Hey, they thought I should sell my baked goods, and basically, my business plan was not a business plan; it was a whim. So I entered 2 farmers markets, and I was accepted in both. And I said, oh no, what am I going to do now? I got to buy a tent. I have to go buy tables. I have to do all these things. But I really didn't. I didn't have a name. I didn't have anything. So I took a blue crock and put some cookie dough in it. Took a picture of it, and that was my logo. I didn't have a name, but my grandkids called me JoJo, so I went with JoJo's dough, which really isn't very original, but it is what it is. So anyway, the 2 markets I entered, one was like in a neighborhood. It was a weekday market, and I was, it was okay. I had very low expectations, so I guess. Okay, she's not like I said, I sold cookie dough and kits that were geared towards kids with a little recipe card and the ingredients prepackaged 1 through 5. And I did okay. I think my first market I made $80. And like I said, low expectations, so I wasn't, crestfallen by any means. But I realized there's a lot of lazy people out there, and they didn't even want all the ingredients to bake them themselves. They just wanted ready-made cookies. So I added fresh baked cookies, and there was a very small market, less than 20 vendors, and as people dropped out, they added people, and those people were all bakers. So of the 20 vendors, 6 of the 20 were bakers, and 4 of the 6 made chocolate chip cookies.
Speak a little louder for me.
Oh, okay. 4 of the 6 made chocolate chip cookies. So I was the second baker in the group, and the first person, she made like a Brazilian treat. It was very unique, and she had a good following. But as they added more bakers, they were just basically copycats of what I was doing, and sales were just so-so. I like maybe under $200 a week. So I thought, well, I need to come up with something else. The second market I entered it's a market that's been around for 22 years. The first week I said I wanted to come and just hang out, talk to vendors. I get the lay of the land. I didn't want to come in blind and look like an idiot. So I came the first week, went around and talked to people, got their take on it, because it's in an area with a lot of expendable income, and I wanted to just see how I fit in. And what I found was most people are very, very willing to talk to you. They will they'll share their secrets. They'll tell you what works, what doesn't work, and not everything works for the same people. But bottom line is, you want to go where the expendable income is. Choose your location wisely. What do you want, a food/craft market only, or you want to go to like a craft fair type. It depends on what you make, what works. You want to be close. You want to be close to things, but you don't want to be too far, too close. If you're at a market and there's a competing market that's a mile away, that may be too close. Weekday versus weekend markets. I would say from what I have found, weekday markets do not do as well as weekend markets. Saturday mornings are the A-list as far as markets. When you're choosing a market, talk to the market manager. She or he would, if they're active on social media, if they have the backing, like I'm in 2 markets right now. One of them is run by like a nonprofit, and they are funded by one of the local hospitals. They're in an area where it's a different type of customer. I do okay there, but my other market is a town, and it's a town with a higher income level, and they've been around for 22 years, and I would say over probably 80% of the vendors in that market have been there 20 years. So when you're talking to vendors, making your decision, deciding where you want to go, if a large percentage of the vendors have been there 20 years, you know it's a good place to be. So you also want to ask about traffic patterns. If it's a closed loop where everybody makes a big circle and you know everybody's going to walk by your booth, that's a good thing. If it's a T-shaped market, so people have to stop and decide whether to go left or right, that kind of thing, that's probably, you could be in the best spot or you could be in the worst spot, and that's up to the discretion of the market manager. New guy in gets the worst spot. And a lot of markets will let you, as an incoming vendor, you can only be part-time. So those are all questions you want to ask the market manager. Usually if they have an active social media page, they get a lot of interaction. And then, do we have any questions yet, Candy?
People want to know who your helper is, and they want you to talk louder.
Okay, all right. My helper his name is Blue, and he is the mascot for Butler University, and he's one of my puppies. I'm not really a breeder. I'm more of a collector. I have 8 bulldogs, and his mother is one of my dogs, and so we donated him to Butler University. He's kind of a big deal. If you have Netflix, he actually has an episode of the show Dogs is out right now, and it talks about him taking the reins as the 4th mascot in the school's history, the 3rd mascot retiring, and is my volume up all the way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sorry, but
I can hear you better now.
Okay. I'm not tech savvy, so I had to make people come and do it for me.
The Grill Master.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Everyone else, a couple questions. Are you in a large city? Where are you located?
I am just south of Indianapolis, but I don't go to markets close by. I go to one on the north side of Indianapolis, and the other one I go to is in a town called Zionsville, and it is a very nice area, and it's the best market. I mean, it has a cool vibe. It's got downtown shopping. That's the one where probably 80% of the vendors have been there 20 years. The other thing is that there's not much product overlap, which is a good thing. So you're not selling against other types of food, but you're not selling against the same type of food too. And so then that leads us into vendor mix. Like I said, talk to other vendors. You may not want to talk to direct competitors because they can be kind of territorial. and they don't want competition coming in. You talk to people, ask them how long they've been in a certain market. A lot of people, if they say, well, I've only been here a year, I was at such and such before, such and such before that, a lot of times that's a sign that maybe they don't have a good product and they have to jump around, or if they've been there a long time, basically long-term vendors equals happy vendors. That's the gist of it. Most people will tell you if they do other markets, they'll tell you which ones they do, which is the best. Like in Indy, I couldn't tell you how many Saturday morning markets there are, but I would venture to say at least 8 to 10. There's a few that are Saturday afternoon, and then there's a new one downtown Indy that is Sunday afternoons. But I just got lucky. The two that I applied to, I got into both. One of those two I don't do anymore. It just wasn't a good setup. And then the other one, I'm sorry for all parking. They're in the bedroom. They're not happy. The other one that I do is the one that's on the north side of Indy. It's a 6-month market. So Zionsville was a 4-month market. The one on the north side is a 6-month market. So I start the one at the 6 months, and then I can go back and do that. So for 4 months, I do 2 markets, which we're finding is it's a bit much just because of the amount of product it takes. And I do one market, my husband does the other one, not willingly, but he does it. And then I have, I lean on my daughter-in-law to help, and I have some friends, one of which Blue's parents come and help. Blue's dad took over, I'll get into this later, but we are doing grilled cheese now at one of the markets, and he is our grill master.
Somebody wants you to speak on, with your particular business, why you choose markets that aren't necessarily nearby. Are local customers not necessarily important to your business? As in, do you have the need to have a following here in the south side of Indy, or is it more for you just the farmer market that drives your business?
I chose markets that were long-standing and expendable income, and that area. Okay, my big money maker is bread, which is not what I started out doing, but I've become the bread lady, and I sell bread. I do artisan breads like spinach feta, Havarti dill. I'm up to 150 loaves a week, and I prep my dough during the week. Fridays I bake from 7 in the morning, and I hope to be done by midnight. And then during that time I also do some drop cookies. I'll do sugar cookies sometimes. Like next week I'm doing cheesecake pies. I try and add something sweet along with the bread. But I charge $9 a loaf for the bread, and the market that I make the most money at, they don't bat an eye at $9. It's just, it is what it is. Nobody questions price. So at 150 loaves times $9, you do the math. That's my big money. That's my bread and butter. And then my filler is cookies, cakes. It's not really what I wanted to do, not what I started out to do, but just by default, and both markets I was in, neither had a bread maker, so it was very lucrative. So I've explored that and I ran with it.
For someone who might have a storefront in a particular area as well as using the farmers market as a supplemental source of income, would you say it is important for them to stick near their storefront, or is it more important to go to a market where they'll be more profitable over somewhere that's closer to their actual business?
If I had a storefront, I would say I would want to be fairly close to a farmer's market that was in my area, because you're gonna, it depends on the area you're in. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, absolutely you want to be close to that. But like for me, it takes me 35 minutes to get to the one farmer's market. But really, they're both. One's on the north side, one's on the west side. depending on which way I go around the city. I live south, but they, because I don't have a storefront, it's not important to me. But I will say, like, there's a couple people in the markets that have restaurants or storefronts, and they both stay pretty close to where their business is.
Perfect. Couple more questions before you go to your next session. Questions about your setup and the rules with your cheesecake pies if you need refrigeration for those. And then does your state cottage law allow dairy products? Are there any restrictions there? So I'm sure you'll cover all that when you go through your setup as well.
All right. So I think I covered vendor mix. Anybody, are there any other questions about vendors?
Nope.
Okay, the tools needed. You need a tent, preferably one that can be put up by a single person. The one that I have, I bought at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's about $100. It's lightweight, so I can do it myself. I mean, there was a nicer tent that was a little bit more money. It was identical to the one I bought, and if you can't tell, my tent's set up in my living room right now, and I did that because it's hotter than blue blazes outside, and I was afraid of just outside noise. I didn't factor in the barking. So anyway, but yes, I am set up in my living room, and this is how I usually dress for the market. I usually have a sundress on, and I usually have my hair with a headband. The tools needed, you need the tent, like I said, preferably one person. Most people will come and help you if you ask for help, or there's like volunteers that will come and help you set up, but really be prepared to do it yourself, because you have a small window of time to get there, get set up. One market lets you park behind your tent, the other market you have to actually physically leave your vehicle and park it somewhere else. And if you're not out by the time the market starts, you can't commit. Some markets require a fire extinguisher, tables, table coverings, all your props, and I have so many different baskets, cake stands, just all these different things and I'm constantly changing all the time. Let's see here. Oh, liability insurance. That's pretty important. Not only for you, but most markets require liability insurance as well. Some places will offer insurance to vendors on a per time basis. Neither one of the markets that I do offer that. I just called the company I have my homeowners through and said I needed a policy, and it needs to be made out in the name of your business and also the market. So I think it was like $380 a year, and I've got I think it's $1 million, and then each occurrence is like 100, 300. It's pretty standard liability, and I think it was through Hartford. They were the most reasonable. And then, like I said, most markets require liability insurance. It's smart. And if you did have a claim, I would think it's well worth it. At first, I did not want to buy liability insurance. I was just getting started. I thought it was a wasted expense. Now it's peace of mind. That's all it is.
You could speak a little bit louder.
Sorry. And then payment methods under your tools needed. Some markets require you to use a credit card. I don't have a problem with it. I use Square, and I think Square takes Apple Pay. They take. I think the Square encompasses all of them. Cash, obviously, that kind of thing is good. But seldom, seldom how you envision your market and your booth to be, it usually doesn't stay that way. So, like I said, I'm constantly changing things up, or I find a new product I want to add, and I have to get different props for that. It's just, constantly evolving from one thing to another. Is there any more questions on the tools needed?
under not necessarily tools, more about setup. So you see Jodi's tent here. Terry wants to know a little bit more about traffic patterns, space and locations, and what are the good and the bad ones. And maybe speak to how you might have control over that and you might not, and what you might be able to do to combat a bad spot.
Okay, complain. But if you're the person that constantly complains, you may not be asked back. Everybody thinks they should be front and center. There are some markets that actually rotate spots. So one week somebody has the best spot, one week they have the worst spot. One of the markets I'm in is just a long shot, and there's parking at both ends. It's just luck of the draw, and older vendors usually get first choice on the spots. But you can, well, actually, okay, here's an example. Last year I had the brunt of the sun all market season, and I never said anything. I just was constantly rotating merchandise, worried about chocolate melting, that kind of thing. I never said anything. So this year, and this is the more profitable market by far, there's a parking lot where it's a circle, and then there's a brick street, and all the produce vendors are on the brick street. I was with the produce vendors. I couldn't figure out why, because everybody else with baked goods or food was the circle with the food. So I messaged the market manager, and I just asked her why, and she said, well, I was trying to put you in the shade because I know you were in the sun last year, and I thought it would be better for you. And I said, I appreciate that, but I'd rather be with the food people. And she said, absolutely, we have 2 spots open, pick whichever one you want. So if you stay on friendly terms with the market manager, they're reasonable people, but there are those vendors that complain every week. There's always something they're not happy about. Eventually it comes back to bite them. So, and 90% of the vendors are really good people. They may be weird, they may be different, they may be, not your cup of tea, but they're basically good people. There's a couple, and I have my nicknames for those people, but that's after the market's over and I'm at home. So basically, traffic patterns are important because some people will walk so far down, look to see what's there, and say, oh, I don't want that, and they'll turn around and walk away. So on that subject, you want something in your booth to make people do a double take and want to come close to your booth. I have a little a balance up here, and actually I'm working on a canopy, like an awning. And that's just something I did. I took a tablecloth and I cut it up, and I took a plate and traced it. I mean, it's by no means professional, but I wanted that until I got my canopy made. And people know to look for the blue and white check. So when they're looking down a row of tents, if I'm not in my normal spot, they know, if they look for that blue and white check, they know where I'm at. Just by chance, and I think I posted about this not too long ago, when I first started doing markets, I brought all my product in orange boxes from the Peach Truck. And if you're familiar with the Peach Truck peaches, oh, that's all my junk there. They're these orange boxes, but people that buy the Peach Truck peaches know those boxes. So I always have them stacked up in the back of my booth, and after about the 5th person that buy this, oh, you have truck peaches? And said, no, I don't, but I use those peaches in my baked goods. So it caused them to stop and come over and talk to me. My style is not, I don't beckon you over to my booth. I'm not a carnival barber. I just, either you want it or you don't. I say, hi, how you doing? I'm not aggressive at all. So it's really, it's personal style, but it's what works for me. Another thing that I did, I had a dishcloth, and I always had it sitting on because I didn't have a product. But it's a chocolate chip cookie, a stack of chocolate chip cookies. It says, life is what you bake it. and I always had it sitting like hanging off my booth, and with the chocolate chip cookies. And I bought them in Home Goods, about 3 packs of 2. People kept coming up and asking if they could buy the dish towel. And I said, well, it's used, but I guess. And so they bought the dish towel, then they ended up buying the cookies too. And even though there was another baker in there that sold chocolate chip cookies, I knew if I got them to try mine, they would mine. And I'm not, I usually don't say things like that, but I mean, my chocolate chips are some of the best you're ever going to have, and that's just the way it is. So I knew if I got them to try them, they would come back. And so I always sell my chocolate chips. I'm trying to think of something else that, aprons. Okay. One week a month, Bulldog Rescue comes to my booth, and they bring adoptable dogs and permafosters to interact with the public. They're both dog-friendly markets that I'm at. And so I will make a specialty cookie. Last time I made butter cookies, and I had them in shapes of like paws and bulldog silhouettes and everything. And we marketed them as bully butter bites. And they sold for $5 a cup, and all the money went to Bulldog Rescue. That's where, I gave away all the money, but most people that bought the butter cookies also bought a loaf of bread. So it's another, and it takes care of part of my taxes because they're a 501c, so I can expense that off on my taxes. Something else, the aprons. So on days that the Bulldogs are at my booth, I wear an apron that has a dog with a chef hat on, and it says I love barking, and then the R is crossed out, so it says I love baking. My daughter-in-law has an apron that says torn between looking like a snack and eating one. She's younger, she can get by with it. I cannot. I do have one that says there's a skinny girl living inside me that's trying to get out, but I can usually shut her up with cookies. It's just, people will stop and read it. Or on my sign, as I sell out of something, I'll put frowny face and sold out. And then the next one I'll put ditto. And after that I'll put nope, or, it's just something to get people to read it, because when you're getting down to the last couple loaves of bread and you're out of cookies and you basically have all these empty baskets on your table, you just don't want somebody walking by going, gee, she didn't have anything for sale. No, I did have plenty for sale, it's just all sold out. So a lot of times now I let people text me, and if they're coming to the market, I'll hold it for them. So I have a wagon that I take orders and set them aside as I get there, because some people can't get there till halfway through. This week it was our biggest bread count, 151 loaves. And like I said, those are all baked on Friday. So 7 a.m. to about midnight, and I have an oven that will bake 16 to 20 loaves at one time. It's just constant baking all day, and I think that's probably our max that we can hit. But we still sell out. One market goes to noon, the other market goes to 11:30, so a 3.5 hour market and a 4 hour market, and we both sell out. I mean, sometimes I've sold out by 9:30 in the morning, and I have to sit there for 2 hours. I think this week we sold out at 10:30, and it went till 11:30, and we had 91 loaves of the 151. The other market sold, I must have had 92, because he had 49, I think. It's 151, whatever that adds up to, but I think we had 91 or 93 or somewhere around there. So usually I get the early shoppers, the people that come with their Trader Joe bags over their shoulder, and they're getting their corn, their watermelon, their cantaloupe, their veggies, and their bread, and then they're out there. They don't want to be there when the crowds are there. I'm usually sold out by the time the families get there. The families come like 10:30ish, and I rarely have anything left. So this week I did have bread for families, so I was able to get a different set of customers than my norm. and it's good because it's just it's always good to get more customers. My husband had an experience this week, and like I said, I don't get complaints, and I don't get people complaining about price. But he said that a woman walked by with her husband, and her husband said, "What's that?" as he walked by the booth, and she said, "Expensive bread," and they kept on walking. The guy behind them said, "Have you ever made bread? Do you have any idea how much time goes into that?" So, and he didn't know either of those people, but he said, I didn't have to comment, and I wouldn't have commented, but another customer did comment. I have had where a woman and her son were at the booth, and he was probably in high school, and she said, I don't know, she said, $9 for a loaf of bread, and he goes, I want it. And she said, well, and she started to argue with him, and the lady behind them said, if you don't take it, I will. It was the last loaf of a certain kind of bread, and it was like that's all she needed to say, okay, I better take that bread, because if I don't buy it, somebody else will. So sometimes your marketing is the other customers in the market. So have we covered? I know I kind of went back to the booth. Well, I did go to the booth setup and everything, but I'm going to go on to. Are we done with tools needed? No more questions?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Booth setup. Make sure your booth is inviting. You don't want overkill, but you also don't want a sterile, off-putting environment. Like I said, you want something to make them do a double take. You want to be clean and neat yourself. That doesn't mean you have to wear. I wear a sundress because I just do it. It's freedom of movement because I don't normally wear dresses. Keep your hair out of your face. I usually wear a headband, so I don't have my hair draping in my face because you don't want to constantly be touching your hair. Even if you have gloves on, you don't want to be touching your hair. The farmers or the health department usually makes a trip once a month to check on the vendors. I think you said there was a question about the cottage law. I'm actually licensed. I bake out of a commercial kitchen, so I pay to rent space. We're in the process of building, and when it is finished, I will have my own commercial kitchen in the barn. So I went ahead and did the Serve Safe program, got licensed and everything. But in Indiana, there is no such thing as a cottage law, and I'm not going to debate that because there are people in Indiana saying, oh no, I can sell out of my driveway, that's a pop-up. It's not true. And if someone from the health department told you that, I would get it in writing, because I can tell you right now that every health department that I've talked to, and I've talked to 3, Marion, Hamilton, and Boone, and all 3 of them say, no, you cannot sell out of your driveway. You cannot sell from your front porch, not in Indiana. But I have had people from Indiana say, oh no, I can do that. It's up to you. I don't want to get caught, and I don't think you're going to get anything more than a slap on the wrist, but still, there is no cottage law to be a pop-up baker in Indiana. You either have to sell at farmers markets, roadside stands, or in a commercial, you get licensed in a commercial kitchen, and you can't jump back and forth. There's one or the other. Roadside stand is not covered under your own property. It's I don't have the wording in front of me, but it does say not on your own property. You can sell it at like a stand outside of the highway. It could be a stand, but it is a set location, and it's always in that location, but it's not your property. And like I said, I'm not going to debate it. You do what you want, but that is the law. Let's see here. Your signage, okay. Do as I say, not as I do, because I don't have a logo on my booth. I don't have. I do have a chalkboard, and I used my Cricut to put my logo on the chalkboard, and I don't have it in here because I didn't want to drag it in the house. But let's see here. I'm going to give you 2 examples. Okay, this is one with Cricut. I did with my Cricut. And so it's clearly legible. People don't have to ask me how much it is because it's clearly marked. Okay, before I did that, I had that one's too. Shoot.
That one.
Okay, this one right here. I just used a marker. you have to get up close to read it. It's not, it's done with a chalk marker. It's still in my handwriting, and my handwriting's terrible. So if you have the ability to have someone do something like Cricut, or have your sign made up with all your prices clearly marked, it works out much better. Your packaging labels, your ingredient labels, all that needs to be clearly marked. Sugar cookies, there's a lady, there's more than one lady, but there's several people on Etsy that will do an ingredient stamp for you, and then all you have to do is stamp all your bags, all your clear plastic. If you're going to heat seal, the only thing is you have to have a stamp for each ingredient. Now I have one for sugar cookies, and then after all the ingredients that are like all the main ingredients like sugar, flour, butter, all that, then it may or may not include, and then I do the different flavorings and all that. That way I only have one stamp. The bread, I've contemplated doing that because I spend a fortune with Sticker Mule, buying labels and stickers from them. With 150 bags of 150 loaves of bread a week, I go through 150 labels on the bags. I buy my bags from Webstaurant. I'm not a member, so I just pay the shipping, and yes, their shipping is ridiculous, but it's still cheaper than if you're going to buy in bulk. I buy 1,000 bread bags at a time. Okay, well, this one doesn't have a sticker on it, but this is my cookie bag, and I just use a bigger logo or a bigger sticker. This is for cookies, and then this size is for bread, right here. And then I have boxes that are the same with the window, and I use 3-inch stickers for the bread, 3-inch stickers for mini pies. I make dumplings. What else do I? Oh, if anybody orders cookies in bulk, they all get the craft boxes. So I try and be uniform across the board on my packaging. Because it's a farmer's market, I don't normally use ribbons, although I think the ribbons are adorable. I'm usually in too much of a hurry to do it. Like I said, do as I say, not as I do, because all these ideas that we're supposed to be following, and I think they're all great ideas, at the end of the day, I run out of time to do them. But eventually, they are on my to-do list, and I will start putting those on. I will start doing Facebook and Instagram posts. I'll do all that. I'm just not doing it today. Let's see. But as far as your labels, your stickers, your signage, everything, as long as it's uniform, easy to read, and people don't have to come up and ask you how much something is, it's acceptable. No questions?
Nope. If you're wondering what Jodi's looking at, there's a dog in a chair.
Okay, product mix. All right, like I said, my first my first venture into farmers markets was cookie dough and cookie kits, which didn't work out real well. I mean, I still offer them, but they weren't my main source of income. So then I saw there were no bread makers, so I started making bread. In the fall, I add dumplings. I do hot pretzels in the fall, and I do different breads. Like in the fall, I do a beer cheese bread that's kind of like big for football games. I do a sun-dried tomato parmesan in the fall. Some things sell better in the fall. In the summer, I do peach cookies because they're light, and I'll do different kinds of sugar cookies. And then someone asked about the cheesecake and the cottage law deal. Okay, cheesecake pie does have to be refrigerated, and I have a Yeti cooler, and it's got a mat on the bottom. Cheesecakes are individually packaged, and which is the market's rule. There's no sampling at that market, and so all the pie pieces are cut off-site, packaged in individual pie slice boxes, and they're in the cooler. And then when I'll have some set on like this right here, I'll have like like a couple pieces set in this so they can see what it is, and I'll have a cooling mat under here and just with a fork and a plate and everything, and they can see exactly what it is, but it's not for sale. You get, I usually do blueberry, raspberry, and peach. And then the top is a fruit pie, the bottom is a cheesecake. Okay, so then the bread. When you go, like I said, the market that I'm the most successful at, there's a gluten-free baker, there's a vegan baker, there's a woman that does everything key lime, and then there's me. And, but there is one other bread baker, but he's not really a bread baker. I get a lot of exposure because there's not a lot of bakers, but there's a lot of variety there. A lot of ready-to-eat foods there. So people have a lot more choices. But at the beginning of the market season, when I was only doing the single market, there was no traffic, and we were worried that, I was doing about $300, maybe $400 a market. It's like, well, shoot, this, not that it wasn't profitable, but it wasn't super profitable. And so a smart friend of mine said, why don't we take the bread that we are selling and make grilled cheese? And so one of the breads, and it's my most popular bread, it's Irish butter sea salt bread. And it's just a basic regular bread that's, when it comes out of the oven, I take Kerrygold Irish butter, melt it on top, and then take Malden sea salt flakes and coat the butter with the sea salt flakes. And so we started selling grilled cheese using that bread. And then I went to one of the microgreen vendors, and I bought microgreens from them. I bought tomatoes from one of the organic farmers. I bought bacon from the bacon guy, and there's a creamery at one of the markets, and I brought a wheel of their cheese. And so I started making grilled cheese with all these products. Oh, something else I usually do, I haven't done it much lately, but I will buy flowers from one of these vendors, and then I always bring a vase with me, put their flowers in the vase, and then put their business card out front. And so many people say, oh, I love those sunflowers. Do you have any more? It's like, well, they're not from my booth. I bought them from so-and-so. So it's always good to support each other, because a lot of times I'll say, somebody will come to the booth and they said, oh, I was just at Harmon Farms, and they said that you have cookies, or you have this or that. So another reason why you want to be friendly with your other vendors, because you really are there to support each other. The popcorn guy, I buy his popcorn, he comes and buys some bread. It's one of those things that, as long as everybody can get along, there should be enough sales to go around for everybody. If you have to be willing to adapt, and then you also, I think, more than anything, you have to have good product, because you're going to get a lot of one-time sales, but if your product isn't any good, you're not going to get repeat business, and that's the key. You want people coming back week after week after week. You don't want new people only, because those new people may not come back. And you'll know if all of a sudden people buy one time and then they zoom past your booth, or there's a couple vendors that I know that at the beginning I thought, wow, they're kicking my butt. And then all of a sudden you never see them over there, and you see the person's booth and they're not selling anything. So, what's that supposed to mean?
15
minutes? I left, or I'm in?
left.
Oh, okay, well, I'm done. Let's see. If there's no questions, maybe nobody's.
Someone said if you get a local following, you should try a bread subscription.
I have thought about that. I just haven't figured out how can I do frozen or fresh. And when the market is in it, I actually do. I have people that will call me and say, can I have 6 loaves of this? I have one lady, she has a standing order, 3 dozen chocolate chip cookies every week. And then like every 3rd or 4th week, she'll say, give me 8 dozen. And she's just somebody that, she buys every week. I would like to explore the subscription idea. I just haven't figured that part out yet. And like I said, I'm not tech savvy, and I'm not like someone asked me for a business card, I rip off a piece of a deposit slip and write my cell phone number on it. I'm just not good at stuff like that. Anything else?
That's all the questions.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Does anyone else? If anyone else has any questions, feel free to put them down below real quick. And then if we see some after we end, or if you're watching on the replay, Jodi will go back through and answer your questions and the replay as well.
Okay. So do you know how to shut it off?
I do know how to shut it off. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you check out JoJo's Dough on Instagram. If you're in the Indianapolis area, you can find us at the Binford Market and the Zionsville Market. Zionsville Market if you're looking for grilled cheese, and for everyone involved. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your evening.